was a cold February night, and the city buzzed with Valentine's Day celebrations. For 19-year-old Alex, it was supposed to be the most special day of his life. A double celebration: his fake birthday party and a heartfelt proposal to Emily, the girl he had fallen deeply in love with. His best friend Jake had helped him plan everything meticulously. The rented villa on the outskirts of town was perfect, luxurious yet secluded, with all the amenities they needed for an unforgettable evening. As the guests arrived in 2 cabs arranged by Alex, the atmosphere brimmed with excitement. Emily looked breathtaking that night, dressed in a flowing red dress that made her glow under the fairy lights strung around the villa's garden. Alex watched her from afar, his heart pounding like a drum as he rehearsed what he would say when the moment came. When Emily hugged him during the birthday wishes, he felt certain she reciprocated his feelings. But fate has a cruel way of twisting expectations. When the cake arrived, instead of happy birthday, it read, "I love you." Alex took the microphone, his voice trembling but hopeful. He knelt before Emily and poured out his heart, confessing his love and revealing the truth about the party being planned just for this moment. But Emily's reaction shattered him. She hesitated, her eyes filled with guilt and sadness before saying softly, "I'm sorry, Alex. I'm already in a relationship. I love someone else." The room fell silent. Alex stood there frozen, as if time itself had stopped. Jake quickly stepped in, trying to salvage the mood by turning the event into a celebration of friendship. Despite the awkwardness, everyone tried to enjoy themselves, though Alex could barely keep up appearances. By midnight, the party ended, and the guests left in the same cabs that brought them. At home, Alex collapsed onto his bed, tears streaming down his face. He replayed every interaction with Emily in his mind, questioning how he misread her so completely. Just as exhaustion began to take over, the doorbell rang sharply at 2 a.m. Startled, Alex opened the door to find 2 police officers standing alongside Emily's frantic parents. "Is Emily here?" her mother asked, clutching her husband's arm tightly. "No," Alex stammered. "She left with everyone else after the party. Did something happen?" Her father explained grimly. "Emily hasn't returned home. We've called all her friends. They're safe, but no one knows where she is." A chill ran down Alex's spine. They checked with other attendees, confirming that everyone except Emily had reached home safely. Then came the realization: Emily's drop-off was last. Panic set in as they contacted the cab drivers. One driver answered promptly, assuring them he dropped each passenger directly at their doorstep. But the second driver, the one who took Emily, was unreachable. His phone went straight to voicemail. The investigation intensified. Police traced the first driver's records, learning that both drivers were hired through a private service. However, the second driver's details were suspiciously incomplete. No license plate number, no clear photo ID, just a name, Mark, which turned out to be fake. Security footage from the villa showed the 2 drivers chatting briefly outside while waiting for the guests to leave. The second driver stood partially in shadow, his face obscured by a cap pulled low over his eyes. His demeanor was odd. He barely spoke or moved unless necessary. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister had occurred. That night, haunted by guilt and fear, he lay awake, replaying the events in his head. Around 4 a.m., his phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "You should have chosen a safer venue." Before Alex could react, another message followed. "Check the pool." His blood ran cold. Grabbing his jacket, he rushed back to the villa despite Jake's protests. Upon arrival, the once lively estate now loomed eerily silent under the pale moonlight. Ignoring the creeping dread, Alex headed straight for the swimming pool. Nothing seemed amiss at first glance, until he noticed faint drag marks leading away from the edge. Following them, he discovered a small piece of fabric caught on a nearby bush. It matched the color of Emily's dress. Suddenly, a loud splash echoed behind him. Whipping around, Alex saw ripples spreading across the water's surface. Heart racing, he peered into the depths but saw nothing. Then, a chilling whisper floated through the air. "Help me." Terrified, Alex stumbled backward, nearly tripping over a discarded object, a crumpled receipt bearing the logo of a local gas station. Scribbled on the back was an address: 73 Blackwood Lane. The next morning, armed with the cryptic clue, Alex and Jake accompanied the police to the address. It led them to an abandoned warehouse deep in the woods. Inside, they found signs of recent activity: empty food wrappers, cigarette butts, and a torn strand of red fabric identical to Emily's dress. A trail of blood droplets led deeper into the building, culminating in a locked metal door. Breaking it open revealed a dimly lit basement. In the corner, bound and gagged, sat Emily. Her eyes widened in relief upon seeing Alex. Before anyone could speak, a sudden noise upstairs startled them. Footsteps echoed above, growing louder. The group froze, realizing the kidnapper might still be inside. Chaos erupted as the figure descended the stairs, a tall man wearing the same cap seen in the security footage. He lunged toward Emily, brandishing a knife. In a desperate struggle, Alex tackled him, giving the police enough time to subdue the attacker. As handcuffs clicked shut, the man sneered. She shouldn't have trusted strangers. Later, Emily recounted her ordeal. After leaving the party, the driver had taken her to the warehouse instead of her home. She managed to send the cryptic texts using his unattended phone, hoping someone would piece together the clues. Though shaken, she expressed gratitude to Alex for risking his life to save hers. Back at college, rumors swirled about the incident, but Alex avoided the spotlight. Instead, he focused on healing and rebuilding his life. Yet, late at night, he often wondered about the mysterious messages and whether someone else had been watching over them all along. And sometimes, when the wind blew just right, he thought he heard a whisper, "Thank you." In the weeks following Emily's rescue, life slowly returned to normal, or so it seemed. Alex tried to move on, burying himself in classes and spending time with Jake, who remained his steadfast support system. But deep down, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something about the case didn't add up. The kidnapper, identified as a drifter named Mark Harper, had no clear motive for targeting Emily specifically. He claimed he acted alone, yet there were inconsistencies in his story. For one, how did he know exactly where to take her? And why did the cryptic text messages lead them directly to the warehouse? Then came the nightmares. Every night, Alex dreamt of the villa, the pool shimmering under moonlight, the faint sound of whispers calling his name. One particular detail haunted him. The voice saying, "Help me," wasn't Emily's. It was deeper, colder, almost otherworldly. Each time he woke, drenched in sweat, convinced he heard footsteps outside his bedroom door or saw shadows moving across the walls. Jake noticed the toll it was taking on Alex. "Man, you need to stop obsessing over this," he said one evening while they studied together. "Emily's safe, the guy's locked up. Let it go." But Alex couldn't let it go. Something gnawed at him, a nagging suspicion that the truth hadn't fully come to light. One Friday afternoon, Alex decided to revisit the villa. Despite its association with trauma, he felt drawn to it, as if some unseen force pulled him back. The property manager had already begun renovations, erasing traces of the party, but Alex wandered through the empty halls, searching for answers. As he approached the pool area, an eerie stillness settled over the space. The water was murky now, leaves floating atop its surface like tiny boats. And then he saw it, a glint of metal beneath the water. Heart pounding, Alex grabbed a nearby pole and fished out what appeared to be a small locket. Opening it revealed a faded photograph inside, not of Emily, but of a young woman he didn't recognize. On the back was engraved, "Forever yours." Before Alex could process this discovery, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. A single text message lit up the screen. "You shouldn't have come back." Panic surged through him. He turned to leave, only to freeze mid-step. Standing at the edge of the pool was a figure cloaked in shadow. Its face was obscured, but its presence radiated malice. Slowly, it raised an arm, pointing toward the house. Alex bolted, sprinting through the villa's corridors until he reached the front door. Slamming it shut behind him, he ran all the way to his car, barely able to breathe. When he glanced back, the figure stood motionless in the window, watching him. That night, Alex called Jake, desperate to share what happened. But Jake's response sent chills down his spine. "What are you talking about?" Jake asked, sounding genuinely confused. "I was with you earlier today. We went to class, remember? You haven't been anywhere near the villa since the party." Alex froze, replaying the day in his mind. Everything felt real. The locket, the text, the figure. But according to Jake, none of it made sense. Was he losing his grip on reality? The next morning, Alex visited Detective Harris, the officer who handled Emily's case. Reluctantly, he recounted his experience, showing the detective the locket as evidence. Harris examined it closely, his expression darkening. "This doesn't belong to Emily," he said finally. "It matches a missing persons case from 10 years ago. A girl disappeared after attending a party at this exact villa. Her body was never found." Alex's stomach churned. "So, what does this mean?" Harris hesitated. "It means someone, or something, doesn't want us digging into the past. Be careful, Alex. Some secrets are better left buried." Days passed without incident, but Alex couldn't escape the growing paranoia. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the lights felt ominous. Then, late one night, he received another text. "She's waiting for you." Against his better judgment, Alex drove back to the villa once more. This time the gates were chained shut, but he climbed over, heart hammering in his chest. Inside, the air was thick with decay, and the silence pressed against his ears like a physical weight. Guided by instinct, he descended into the basement, a place he'd avoided during previous visits. There, illuminated by the beam of his flashlight, was a hidden trapdoor embedded in the floor. With trembling hands, he pried it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. The smell of earth and dampness wafted up, making his skin crawl. At the bottom, he found a cavernous chamber filled with relics of forgotten parties, broken furniture, shattered glass, and old photographs pinned to the walls. In the center stood a makeshift altar adorned with candles and strange symbols carved into the stone, and beside it lay a shallow grave. As Alex stepped closer, his flashlight flickered and died, plunging him into darkness. A low hum filled the room, growing louder until it became unbearable. Suddenly, a cold hand gripped his shoulder, spinning him around. Standing before him was the same shadowy figure from the pool, but now its features were clearer. Its eyes glowed red, and its mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. Behind it stood Emily, pale and lifeless, her lips mouthing silent words. "Join us," the figure whispered, its voice echoing in Alex's skull. He screamed, stumbling backward, but the ground gave way beneath him. Falling, falling, falling. When Alex woke, he was lying in his bed, sunlight streaming through the window. For a moment, he thought it had all been a nightmare. But when he reached for his phone, a new message awaited him. "Welcome home." Confused, Alex got dressed and headed outside. The streets were eerily quiet, devoid of people or cars. The sky above was gray and oppressive, casting long shadows across the pavement. As he walked, he realized something was wrong. The houses looked familiar, yet distorted, as if viewed through rippling water. Finally, he arrived at the villa. Its once luxurious facade was crumbling, overtaken by vines and decay. Pushing open the creaking gate, he entered the courtyard and froze. There, sitting by the pool, was Emily. She smiled warmly, beckoning him closer. But as he approached, he noticed her reflection in the water. It wasn't hers. Instead, it was the shadowy figure, grinning wickedly. "Alex," she said softly, extending her hand. "We've been waiting for you." Behind him, the gate slammed shut. As the gate slammed shut, Alex spun around, his heart pounding like a war drum. The world outside the villa seemed to dissolve into mist, leaving only the decaying estate and Emily's haunting smile. Her hand remained outstretched, pale and cold, as if beckoning him into an abyss. "Emily, what's happening?" Alex stammered, taking a step back. Her voice was calm but laced with something unnatural. "You shouldn't have come here alone, Alex. But now that you're here, you can't leave." The shadowy figure emerged from behind her, its red eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. It loomed over them, its form shifting and twisting unnaturally until it towered above the pool. With a guttural growl, it spoke. "She chose you." Before Alex could react, Emily lunged forward, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. The ground beneath him cracked open, revealing the same cavernous chamber he'd seen in his nightmare. Candles flickered to life around the altar, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Chains slithered across the floor, wrapping tightly around Alex's ankles and wrists before he could fight back. "No!" Alex screamed, thrashing against the restraints. "What do you want from me?" Emily tilted her head, her expression eerily serene. "It's not about what we want, Alex. It's about what you owe us." The figure raised its arm, and the locket Alex had found floated into its grasp. Its glowing eyes locked onto him as it whispered, "Forever yours." A searing pain shot through Alex's chest as the symbol carved into the altar burned itself onto his skin. His screams echoed through the chamber, blending with the hum of the candle's flames. Darkness swallowed him whole. When Alex opened his eyes again, he was standing by the pool. But everything was different. The villa was pristine, vibrant, alive with music and laughter. Guests mingled under twinkling fairy lights, their faces blurred and indistinct. Emily stood beside him, radiant and smiling, holding his hand. "What? Where am I?" Alex asked, disoriented. Emily leaned close, her lips brushing his ear. "You're home now, Alex. Welcome to eternity." As she stepped away, Alex caught his reflection in the pool and froze. Staring back at him was the shadowy figure, its red eyes gleaming with triumph. And then, silence. The villa faded into darkness once more, leaving only the faint echo of whispers. "Join us.